Hey everyone, so here's the solution guide to the chapter review. And keep in mind, we do need to have, where is it at? We need to have these trig ratios handy, so have those memorized or have them written down somewhere. I'm going to kind of run back and forth between this page and this page, so hopefully that's not too confusing. But if you see here, we're finding the measure of each side. And let's first find out where A, B, and C is on our triangle. And finding out where little a, little b, and little c is, it's pretty easy. All we have to do is go across from the angles. So here's angle C. If we go across angle C, we touch this side, which makes that side lowercase c. And then B, angle B is up here in the corner. If we go across angle B, we come over here and touch this bottom side. So that's lowercase b. And then to find lowercase a, well, we start at angle A and then just go across to where here. Now I'm not going to put A there, even though that's where it belongs, because there's already a measurement there. I'm just going to go ahead and say A is 12. Okay, and that tells me one of my measures. And I also know what letter it is. I mean, here it says A is 12, so I know that's 12. Then we have to identify, okay, which one of the acute angles do we want to work with? Generally, I choose A, but I have no information here for A. And I do have the measurement of B up here, so I'm going to go ahead and just choose B. And say, okay, let's go ahead and use B as our target angle, and then we're going to name the sides according to angle B. For example, C is the hypotenuse, lowercase b is the opposite side, and then lowercase c is the actually 12 is the adjacent side. 12 is the adjacent side because it is next to angle B. So that makes 12 the adjacent side. Okay. And then I'm going to say, okay, between B and C, let's go ahead and solve B first. And then if we solve for B first, let's say I'm going to cover up C because I don't need that information right now. We're left with B being the opposite side and 12 being the adjacent side. Well, you need to go back to the trig ratios and find out which one is the opposite and the adjacent. And opposite and the adjacent, if you look, it's tangent. Okay, tangent is opposite over adjacent. So then I'm going to go back to my paper and say, okay, well, we know then tangent of that angle, which is 75 degrees, and that was equal to opposite over adjacent. And that's the equation we need to solve for in order to get the value of B. And solving this is simple. Just make it look like a proportion, cross multiply, so you don't grab the variable, and divide by what's left over. And then when we type this in the calculator, make sure you type in whatever's in this bubble first. So tangent of 75 degrees times 12, and we'll divide it by 1. And that's 44.8. So I know B is 44 point. You know what? I'm gonna put two terms down. We're rounding to the tens place. And this one is the one that tells me if it moves up or not. Because this is 5 or more, it means we're going to bump that number up. So B is 44.8. Okay, so now we found B. Now at this point I could use the Pythagorean theorem, but I'm not going to. I'll use the Pythagorean theorem down towards the bottom. I'm going to just write another equation using one of my trig ratios to find C. So now that I found out B, I'm going to cover B. Then I'm going to say, hey, I have adjacent and hypotenuse. And then again, I'm going to go back to my trig ratio and say which ratio uses the adjacent and the hypotenuse side. Well, here's the adjacent and the hypotenuse sides, right? Adjacent over hypotenuse. That's the cosine ratio. So when I write my equation, I got to make sure, well, it's going to look like this. Cosine of this angle, which is 75 degrees, is equal to the adjacent side divided by the hypotenuse. Adjacent is 12, hypotenuse is C. Again, just because C is on the bottom does not make this any more difficult to solve. All we need to do is make it look like a proportion by putting a 1 under it. We cross multiply so we don't grab the variable, and then divide by what's left over. And then I'm just going to scoot it over a little so I can type it in the calculator. So when I type it in the calculator, again, whatever I have in the bubble gets typed in first. 1 times 12. And then divided by what's left over. Divided by cosine of 75. Close the parentheses, push enter. And again, this is C equals 46.36. And it keeps going. However, this is the tens place. This is the number we need to check. Because it's 5 or more, it's going to bump that guy up to a 4. So this is 46.4. And that's the answers for number 1.